I've been doing some thinking around the anime, The Tower of God or Tower of God. If you've watched it, awesome. If not, no worries. The concepts will still apply to you because this channel is dedicated to helping you make more money, be better at communicating, gaining self-confidence, being able to go out into the real world and be able to interact with other people in new ways that you haven't been able to originally interact with them in the first place. If that's something you're interested in, you can always subscribe to the channel. With that being said, I wanted to talk about how Tower of God is it's a game-based anime, basically, which is really quite interesting when we think about it, because these same principles apply to ourselves in our own lives. And this is something that I've been touching on or thinking about over quite some time. I think about this, like each time that we're presented with an option or a choice, it's kind of like a game. Either we pass the test or we don't pass the test. If we pass the test, we get to go on to the next floor, we get to go on to the next journey, we get to go up to the next level of reaching the highest heights that we've ever reached beforehand. If we don't learn our lesson, then we go back, or at least we have to replay that game set again until we do learn the lesson. Once we learn the lesson, then we can go on to the next stage in our evolution in our journey. And this is something that I've come to realize after being out of school for a couple of years and being on my own. Is like we all are presented with different tests. We're always presented with different expectations, with different outlooks, with different views, with different opportunities. And it's a matter of being able to figure out like, okay, is this something that I need to move forward with, or is this something that I don't need to move forward with? Because the same situation, the same problem, the same test, quote unquote test, is always going to be presented to you regardless of where you go. So let's say you move from one place to the next, and all of a sudden you're at that new place after you decide to go from the place that you're at right now. And obviously there are exceptions to these rules. This is just something that I myself have found out. I go over to this next place, or this new job, or this new friend, or whatever it is, this new gym, this new location, wherever I'm going, the same things will end up happening because there's always one constant in that said scenario. And if you don't know what that is, it's yourself. It's myself. We are always the one constant that is always happening to us. And yes, there are exceptions to these rules as well too, but most of the time when you see the same thing happening over and over again, regardless of where you're going, it's probably not the other people that are going and being in those sort of places. In all likelihood, it's probably yourself. So that's where I say you need to be able to pass this test. You need to be able to pass the test that is being presented to you each and every single time, because until you pass that test, you're not going to be able to level up. You're not going to be able to move on to the next stage. You're not going to be able to evolve into the next area of your life, which if you're wanting to figure out how you can do that yourself, and you're wanting to have somebody that gives you an outside perspective that isn't typically attuned to your own self or your friends or somebody else, then I highly recommend scheduling a coaching call with me today, because I can help you identify the things that are giving you a little bit of trouble and or shortcomings, because we all have having a little bit of guidance can always be a very useful tool in our toolkit to help us get to that next level, to help us pass the test if we do come to that same scenario over and over again. Because for me, like, let's say I had a test of being able to figure out whether or not I needed to be alone or whether or not I needed to be with people. And me being able to identify, okay, I would much rather be with people than be alone. That is a test that I had to pass. Or it's just like, okay, I needed to pass a test on being able to figure out like, oh, can I survive without having an income come in for 6 months or a year? And it's just like, yes, I can, because this is the crazy thing. So like with me doing sales, and I've done sales for quite some time at this point in time, and it's a game just like anything else. You understand the rules of the game, you can win the game a lot easier. Some people are going to be gifted with other skills, characteristic traits, and or strengths that you yourself might not have, but you also have your own skills, character traits, and or abilities that the other person doesn't have, and being able to tune into your own abilities so that you can win the game that you are playing is going to be the most beneficial for you in your own journey on life, because everybody has made mass assumptions on how you need to behave and on the things that you need to do, when in actuality it's an individual's approach to this said problem, to approaching the said game. So with me taking off a year and figuring out like, oh hey, like if I'm in sales, like I'm going to have high months and I'm going to have low months, and I did this in the most roundabout stupid way, but like it was a way that I wanted to test myself to see if I could do it, and I wanted to figure out where my true priorities lie. And my true priorities lie in having like a house, a nice house. I like having a house. It's a nice place, because like this is where I seem to spend most of my time. The food and like the other expenses, like those are a little bit more minimal, but this is where I say like being able to track like what you do and how you do it and figuring out the game that you're playing will help you become a lot easier at playing the game. Because like let's say you're playing a game like Catan or Monopoly or even tic-tac-toe or chess. Chess is a little bit more on the extreme, but like once you understand the rules of chess, you can win, but there's also these other people that think about it in these different ways around how to like, they're thinking like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 moves ahead, where you're only on move 1. So like chess isn't an ideal one unless you get really good at it, but you can still learn the basics of chess. Whereas like Monopoly and Catan, there's also rules to that game. And once you understand how to play the rules of that said game, you can win that game a lot easier. The same principles also apply to life. Once you understand the principles or the ways to win at life, it becomes a lot easier to win this game and move up to the next floor and the next floor and the next floor and the next floor. Each time it will take a little bit of like more fine tuning, and maybe you'll have a failure, and then you'll be presented with the same test over and over and over again until you pass it. And this is why I'm such a big proponent in when you go to bed at night, visualize your day in the way that you wanted it to happen. And if you do this each and every single night, you might not see the effects right away. I know I didn't see the effects right away. I kind of did, and I also kind of didn't at the same time. But me being able to reanalyze certain conversations or experiences that I had throughout that day and replay them in my mind in the ways that I wanted them to be replayed in my mind, all of a sudden those said things started to happen. And I started to have more success. I started to have more fulfillment. I started to overcome those things that I didn't originally overcome in the first place. Yet if I never would have gone out and tried those things at all, I would have never known where I needed to improve, what I needed to step up on, what I needed to change, what I needed to transform, how I needed to change my words, how I needed to change my verbality, how I needed to ask different questions, how I needed to stand, how I needed to step back, how I needed to analyze body language, how I needed to ask questions. Like I needed to figure out all of these things through a trial and error type of experience. It's the same thing with what I did in sales. I would make 100 calls. I'd analyze it. I'd ask some other people. I'd look at myself and be like, oh, okay, like that was simple. Like, okay, maybe I'm struggling with this or I'm struggling with that. If you don't have somebody that resonates with you on those said frequencies or on those said ideas or goals, if you don't have teammates to help you around, how are you going to expect to level up? Because like in Tower of God, you see all these other creatures, people, because there are kind of creatures in the series, but like you see all these other people in the series and they're all having different teammates that are helping them out, that are giving them a little bit of insight around this character or that character, because we all need different parts and different people to play their specific role, because we're all playing a role in our own predestined life that we have decided to live. If that's not something that you want to do, you, like I said, have every right to change it. It's just one decision. It's one choice. And this is where I say being able to identify how to play the rules of the game is a very worthwhile experience, because once you understand that nobody's going to come save you, you're always going to be tested. You have the ability to do new actions that you have never done beforehand by changing what you do and how you visualize and the ways that you perceive and act as if you are that new person. All of a sudden, you're going to have different opportunities that are going to be presented to you. So like if you want to have something happen, if you want to get to the next level, what is the thing that's holding you back? You figure out the thing that's holding you back, you pass that test, and you go on to the next stage. Because each time we're presented with the same scenario, like I was talking about just a moment ago. Each time you go to a new place, each time you go to a different area, each time you go to a different state or country or wherever it may be, or you watch a different anime, it's always going to be presenting to you different challenges or different outcomes that are there to challenge the way that you think, are there to inspire you to think in different ways, or there to show you a reflection of what you're seeing within yourself. This is why, like, I've done this multiple times, and I highly recommend you do it as well too. Grab a sheet of paper, write down the people that are in your life and the things that they are teaching you, and then look at it and be like, okay, are these people that I want to have in my life that are going to be helping me out? Or are these people that, like, yeah, I love them and I'd love to keep them around, but like they aren't going to help me, or they aren't giving me the reflection that I need to be receiving right now, or they're giving me the reflection that I needed to know. Now that I see this reflection within them, I can now level up and I can identify, okay, this is something that I don't want, this is something that I do want. Kind of like one of my buddies, he used to tell me that he got divorced 2 or 3 times. He was like an 80, almost 80, 76 or something like that. I can't remember the age off the top of my head. Most of these videos, as you are well aware of right now, is just me talking off the top of my head as if I was just having a conversation with you. Obviously, I do a lot of research and other times and like spent a lot of time reading and studying right before making this video. So it's just me pulling up on those specific informations that I have had from the past. He told me that when he got divorced, he had to buy back everything that he ever had, and he was able to do that twice. And I was like, interesting. So that means that I can also do that same thing. So I decided trying to do that, left the job. I also wanted to just figure out, like, if I do have, like, what is my base level of, like, survival needs that I need to make each month to just, like, continue living, like, the life that I have right now without any, exaggerated spending or anything like that, and I can just, like, live the bare minimum. Like, I figured out what that number was over a year. Obviously, I didn't do it in, like, the best way, but it was a way that I needed to do it because I wanted to test myself to see if this was something I myself could do, and if I could survive a year without having an income, see if I could live off of this, whatever it was, so that then if I want to do that again, I have every right to do that, and I can just figure out, like, okay, if I just work very hard for this short period of time, which you yourself can do as well too, then all of a sudden I can live off of this for a certain period of time, then I can come back. It's kind of like being retired, but also not being retired. It's a much better way, I'd say, of living than having to work 40 hours every week, because, like, sometimes we need a little bit of break, and sometimes the 2 weeks isn't going to do it to help us get up to that next floor. Sometimes we just need time to think. Sometimes we just need time to relax. Sometimes we just need time to, like, evaluate our life and what we truly want to do. Because maybe you aren't sure what you want to do in your life. Maybe you aren't sure, like, the next stage, but, like, you do know that you want to get to a certain place. I've been there. I understand that. And this is why I highly recommend walking, journaling, meditating, biking, running, going out into nature, which I have another video coming up that you'll want to check out around, like, nature and how it heals you, basically. So make sure you're subbed to see something along those lines. And yeah, it's just a matter of being able to figure out, like, where are you being tested in your life right now? What is life trying to show you? What is life trying to present to you? What is life trying to teach you? And whatever it is, like, if you think that you're in a bad spot, I'll let you know that you're not. It's a matter of being able to identify that bad spot to make it into a good spot. And once you make it into a good spot, all of a sudden you're going to be more free. You're going to be more light. You're going to have all these different opportunities. You're going to have all these new things flowing to you. in the most miraculous, magnificent way, because you decided to change the thing that you were doing. You could decide, instead of like sitting on the couch and sleeping all day, you decided, you know what, I'm going to go on a walk, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to start making content, or I'm going to draw, or I'm going to write, or I'm going to talk to people, or I'm going to just go out and brighten up somebody's day. I'm going to do something that I haven't done originally, because this new person that I am right now, that I'm hoping you're able to do, is able to pass those tests, is able to go to the next floor, is able to realize that like this is all just a game, and you are also the one that gets to decide whether or not you did pass the test or you didn't pass the test, because you're always presenting these tests to you in your own way. So it's a matter of being like, okay, well, yeah, I did pass this test, but then if it keeps coming back up, maybe you didn't pass it, or maybe it wasn't a test, maybe it was just something that like this is just how your life is, and this is just something that you want. And most of the time you might be unaware that you're being tested, but you can also become aware of being tested by realizing that like everything is happening for you in the most beneficial way to help you get to where you want to be. Because some people say that life isn't predetermined, some people say we have free will, which I think there's a combination of both. We're always determined to go down any specific route. Yeah, we can always choose and decide whether or not we want to go down a different route, or we don't want to go down that different route, but that could also be seen as being predetermined. So it's really just your own perspective of what you want to view in this life, of how you want to be presented, of the levels that you want to climb, and the heights that you want to go to. So just keep that in mind.